Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with probably one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen, ever. This comes from the Donald.win Twitter feed via Joe Altman, via Eric Coomer. This letter has been passed around. It's supposedly from Antifa. And I'm just going to read some of it and comment on it because I find it absolutely hilarious. Eric Coomer says, in case you didn't know, Antifa, and that's in quotes, has made a statement. It says, to all media, in caps, public statement from Antifa in response to the threats issued by United States President Donald J. Trump. Dear Mr. Trump. So you see, it's to all media, but it's a public statement for everybody, but it's also aimed at Donald Trump. You got that? A little schizophrenic. It continues. Let us be perfectly clear. Antifa isn't an organization. There's no membership, no meetings, no dues, no rules, no leaders, no structure. It is literally an idea and nothing more. Except that's not really true, is it? There's Rose City Antifa. There's other groups associated with Antifa. They have leaders. They have a structure. They have a membership. Any dill hole with a hoodie and a penchant for throwing fireworks at the cops can basically be in Antifa. That's a membership. It's a stupid one, but it's a membership nonetheless. The dues, there are dues because you gotta be fighting a man to move up in the ranks of Antifa. There is a structure because they have websites, they have merch, they have all kinds of things. And there are rules. If you're not woke, if you don't subscribe to their ideology, you're not in Antifa, dummies. So of course you have all that. You just have a different kind. It's just not a standard set of rules and hierarchy. Continuing. Even the claim of this author to represent Antifa is one made unilaterally for the purposes of this communication and nothing more. There is no governing body, no trademark owner to dispute the author's right to represent Antifa with a capital F that time. First off, you don't know how to use quotation marks, and you're undermining your own point. And you're admitting in those sentences that you don't represent anybody. So, and if Antifa's just an idea and you don't represent anybody, you're just some rando shouting into the wind, dummy. Continuing. Antifa is a neologism. Neologism. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I pronounced it right in the second and first take, and now I can't do it. Neologism. I think that's the way. Constructed from a contraction of the phrase anti-fascist. The truth is, there's no such thing as being anti-fascist with a capital F. Either you're a decent human being with a conscience, or you are a fascist. Okay. First off, again, the quotations. You're undermining your own point. Second, the definition of a fascist is not a person without a conscience. That would be, I believe, a sociopath. Or a psychopath. I think a sociopath has no conscience. No, maybe it's a psychopath. I forget. But you don't know what a fascist is. You just keep expanding the definition to encompass anybody you're attempting to fight against. You're just making more enemies and dissolving the word fascist into meaninglessness. Please learn English, please, and learn how to write it. Continuing, the ostensible president of the United States has today openly declared that he is a fascist. No, he hasn't. And that he intends to turn the military power of the United States into a fascist tool. First, no, he hasn't. Second, you've already accused him constantly of doing that. So now you're saying he's doing it? Wasn't he doing that before? Duh. Now there is no question, and we can stop pretending that this man represents anything but the worst in humanity, which his supporters embody. Okay, so you're saying that half the country is the worst in humanity. That sounds like a formula for civil war. Fortunately, you're just very stupid, and you don't represent the other half of the country. Fortunately, you're just caught up in the media moral panic. Continuing, and that is the only effects his words will have. It will likely be no problem for Leo, to identify the author of this document. What's Leo? I don't even know. Who also maintained the Antifa page on Facebook since founding it in 2017. Well, that's just announcing who you are. Why don't you just put your name on the document? It doesn't matter. You're just a rando anyway. Who cares? Nobody cares who you are, dude. The author of this document is unconcerned that his inevitability, because neither that author nor this document has been involved in crime in any sort of way. No one cares, dude. But since both the president and the media insist on acting as though Antifa is this big scary organization, the author supposes it's time for Antifa to make a statement. Again, you don't represent them, so who cares? Thus, Antifa, I think he meant to put two quotes but forgot, supports and defends the right of all people to live free from oppressive abuse of power. Well, I would agree to that part of the statement. Whether that power is unjustly derived from wealth, status as an employer, or political popularity. Okay, so let me get this straight. If you're rich, are an employer, or popular politician, you therefore are oppressing people. How does that work? How does it work that you're a popular politician, but you're oppressing people? Are you implying that Donald Trump is popular? I mean, you understand that if your ideas were popular, you would have some, what would you do then? Would you then admit that you're oppressing people? Is it because you're unpopular? You can't be oppressing people? And why are all employers oppressive? I mean, you haven't had one, obviously, but it's not because you don't own the means of production. I mean, you could start your own business, dude. You could start it today on the internet and make some money if you want, but I guess it's just easier to be a communist. Continuing, particularly Antifa, not in quotes, defends and supports the right of oppressed and marginalized people to protest, march, and engage in civil disobedience in the pursuit of justice. Well, everybody supports that, you dillweed, of course. So, what are you saying? Continuing, while it is never our intent to engage in violent or destructive behavior, oh, right, we cannot and will not take responsibility for telling people how they are allowed to be righteously outraged. Okay, so if some mentally ill person, which you have many in your ranks, runs amok, we don't have any right to stop him. He's a maniac with a knife, but let him go, people. He's got his own righteous outrage to the voices in his head. We prefer and encourage nonviolent action. Do you now? I'd like to see that proven. I'd like to see you show any sign that Antifa encouraged nonviolent action. We also understand that some people are just aren't feeling that nice anymore. What? Their feelings are entirely justified. According to who? You? And it's neither our role nor our privilege to tell them otherwise. Are you acknowledging that privilege is an authority which is somehow right? If you had the privilege, could you then tell them otherwise? Doesn't make any sense by your own rules. Mass civil disobedience is what happens when people say they're hurting, and whoever's hurting them refuses to stop. Oh, are you hurt? Are you hurt by Donald Trump's nasty words? Stop hurting them. Fix your broken systems. Get real and meaningful psychological evaluations and background checks for police in some nations. Police in some nations have to pass more stringent tests to carry pepper spray than any police department in the U.S. or the U.S. military have in place. Have you been to other countries and experienced their police and or military? Sometimes it's the same thing. Try going to Egypt sometime and let me know how the police deal with you throwing firecrackers at them. I expect not too kindly, sir. Even in a place like the UK or any of the Western nations, try breaking curfew in Australia and Victoria right now. You'll get a beatdown. A beatdown. Is that the kind of things you want to happen here? We have the best military and police here. And even though they F up a lot, and as libertarians, we could tell you how they do F up a lot. They're still the best. They're still the best. This is still the safest, one of the safest countries in the world. Maybe not the safest. It depends on what metric you use. Yeah, you could point to some other countries that technically are safer, but try to step out of line in Canada. No First Amendment there. They can go through your mail, dummies. But hey, anytime you want to move, we'll be happy to point you to the door. You know, Communist China has all the stuff you're asking for in this letter. Continuing, as a direct and possibly deliberate consequence, our military and paramilitary personnel simply cannot be assumed to be fighting in the interest of the people of this country. I don't know how you determine that. I guess you're a mind reader. We've all seen the photos. The destruction and burning and looting is largely the behavior of outsiders. Oh, really? Well, that's news to me. White people taking advantage of the situation both to enrich themselves by looting under the cover of protest and to provide excuses for uncontrolled fascist elements within our military and police forces as plausible cover for killing more black, brown, and poor people without fear of sanction? No, none of that is true if you've watched any of the videotapes from any of the looting. Probably the one thing that is true is there are a lot of white people in Antifa. So maybe if you finally admit that Antifa is fascist, a lot of that would be true. The so-called accelerationist, I don't know who you're talking about, dude, who have committed to ensuring that any time a marginalized community stands up and demands justice, construct a narrative of criminality and destruction that white bigots and affluent oligarchs who benefit from our broken system to validate their bigotry and injustice retroactively. There's a lot of stuff in there. I mean, it's just nonsense. You know, it's either about money or race. You know, the idea that there's a white bigot around every corner is such nonsense. I would agree that there are people who want to make money off of all this stuff. Most of them are in the media, and most of them you listen to. Quote, they are successful in this for two reasons. Serving ignorance. Oh, because people like you are easily manipulated in your banal self-serving ignorance. Who are you talking to? This was supposed to be to all media, the public, or Donald Trump. So who are you addressing at this point? People like you, easily manipulated your banal self-serving ignorance. Oh, you're just so smart. You can't even use quotes. And because people like you are more than happy to passively aggressive reap the benefits of pretending to believe this destruction is the act of the oppressed. You and your Antifa allies are easily ready to reap the benefits of your iPhone made by slave labor. That you can't stop taping yourselves over and over again and using it to organize, and yet you don't care one whit what China is doing to its workforce. Not one whit. The game has gone on for decades in an endless loop since the very dawn of the civil rights era, and we are the people saying no more. And that President Trump is your solution. No more. Get the dirt out of your law enforcement and your military. Actually, it's our law enforcement and our military, you dummy. Get the dirt out of your government and administration. Again, they're ours. Ideally, resign now and take your... Oh, now he's talking to Trump again. And take your VP and cabinet with you. Nancy Pelosi isn't a great deal of improvement, but she'll only be president for a few months. So you're a Biden supporter. Oh, I get it. You want the oligarchs and all the lobbyists and all the corrupt neocons and corrupt Biden to be in the White House. Because why? Well, according to the other members of Antifa, he's the easiest to overthrow, isn't he? Good luck with that. You won't even overthrow Biden, as weak as he is. Continuing, you can't arrest 100 million of us, sir. There's not 100 million of you. It's not even 100,000 of you. And you would be well advised not to try. If you think that targeting and making an example of the author of this document will get you anywhere, you may rest assured that this author is more than prepared to allow his real name to be used as a rallying cry for justice and civil disobedience from coast to coast. Well, you're certainly a brave human being to allow your name to become famous. Wow, such bravery, stunning and brave. It is time for you and everyone who thinks like you to understand that whether black, red, brown, white, or any other color, Americans are done living in a nation of empty platitudes and broken promises. Whoa, big words. Traditionally, this type of document is accompanied by a list of demands. Demands! Again, you're using the quotes wrong. Here are our demands, without quotes. 1, universal, he's not numbering them, but I said the number. Universal single-payer health care without regard for citizenship status. So, universal single-payer health care for the entire world? Are you dumb? Are you thick? Universal basic income. Hello, communism. With in caps, a federal job guarantee under which involuntary unemployment is a function of under which the federal government becomes employer of last resort. Involuntary unemployment is a function of profiteering by fascist capitalist oligarchs who are willing to sacrifice the lives of others for their own enrichment. It must end. Then why would you push Joe Biden in, you morons, you unbelievable dimwit? Next, the abolition of the right to work laws, which do exactly the opposite, ensuring anyone's right to work. Why would you even need that if you have the first thing? You idiot. Publicly funded higher education. Well, somebody has to do the brainwashing. Robust and effective social welfare programs to include childcare, education, employment training, counseling, parenting skills training, and life skills training, including, wait for it, fiscal education. Well, somebody needed to give you fiscal education because communism doesn't work, you idiot. Oh, that's just classic. A requirement that functional proficiency in media, political, and economic literacy must be demonstrated to graduate high school. Well, who's going to determine that? Oh, right. The functional proficiency in media, political, economic literacy. Yeah, so in other words, as long as we believe everything you do, Antifa boy. The creation of a publicly funded, nonpartisan media source to serve as the primary source of government information, to be overseen and managed day to day by a coalition of well-known communicators, political scientists, and other experts in propaganda to strip all bias from official information before it is broadcast. That's supposed to be organizations like NPR and the Voice of America, and yet they became incredibly biased. How did that work? Nobody is unbiased, you utter ponce. I'm running out of synonyms for morons. You're just so stupid. These demands are just insanely dumb. Federal charges of treason filed against anyone willfully and knowingly attempt to minimize public perception of the impact and risk of the coronavirus. Well, there's something that's totally realistic and doable, huh? Reform of whistleblower laws to ensure they have teeth, and particularly to ensure that a whistleblower acting in good faith is not identified to the public ever. I kind of agree with some of that, except, the people enforcing it are usually the people that are getting whistled upon. Finally, in the end, Mr. President, the simple reality is that Antifa isn't a thing. You can't end it, you can't arrest it, and you can't silence it. Nor in any decent nation would the attempt ever even be made. Is there some nation that lets Antifa run amok that I'm unaware of? Antifa means anti-fascism. The only position that opposes this is fascism. So in other words, if you're not an Antifa, you're a fascist, and so you got to be kicked out of the country or whatever. In the end, there is no organization that you can declare terrorist. Declare terrorist. There we go. You, sir, and yours are the terrorists. And your victims are done putting up with it. I say, America is not, in spite of having an openly admitted fascist president, a fascist nation. We have had wars about this. The fascists are 0-2. You don't know what fascism is. I assume he means the bad guys from World War II, which would count as one, and he probably means the Confederates, who weren't fascist. Fascism wasn't invented until after the Confederacy. You utter putz of an ignoramus. That's not fascism. It's not great, but it's not fascism. Everything you're against is not fascism. Everything you don't like is fascism to you. Please, Mr. President, let's not try to make it 0-3. Because it will never, ever be 1-2. And none of us want to see the death toll from your attempt to make it so. Currently, media and other actors wishing to contact this author may do so through the page. Should Mr. Zuckerberg, who has displayed plenty of authoritarian and fascist tendencies himself, decide to not host this page any longer, this document will be updated. Best regards, Antifa. And the comments are a bit long. And yes, Trump certainly won't get beyond neologism. There, I said it right that time. That's just hilarious, dude. I don't know if this is a real guy in Antifa. Maybe somebody making fun of him. It feels genuine because there's so many genuine mistakes. You know, it feels like a college kid who's got like a half-assed grasp of the English language and is just full of emotion and just typing a bunch of thoughts out. And I don't know. Maybe it was not meant to be taken remotely seriously, even by the guy who typed it. But oh man. You gave us all a good laugh. I mean, that's the important thing, dude. You gave us all a good laugh. Antifa is still ridiculous and stupid, and you're an idiot, in my view. So, please, just stop embarrassing yourself. Antifa is a terrorist organization in the state of New Jersey, so be aware if you try that crap here. And be aware, too, that all this is coming to an end, you useful idiot. If Biden gets in, it's over. And Biden will crush you. Because he'll have to. Because he won't need you anymore. Trump, he's going to get you. Because, quite frankly, he's been using you too. Yeah. You've been a very useful idiot.